hope you're ready for this.
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn. Hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 75th episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm, part of the Trolls GG Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Daz, and I'm joined today, as always, by Mystic. Mystic, we missed you last week. Welcome back, bud.
Good to be back, Daz.
For those of you who don't know, we've actually switched our show time to Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Mystic had a school conflict, so we had to switch it over, and we're going to be doing this time slot going forward, just so everyone knows, a little programming note. And what a better way, there's no better way to kick off our new time slot than with the guest today, Heccu. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so excited. I wish LiQuid could be here as well. As all our listeners know, LiQuid's obviously one of our co-hosts as well, but he had a work function and he couldn't make it this week. And he was the one who was like, you got to get Heccu on the show. You got to get Heccu on the show. I reached out to you and you got back so quick. I was very impressed. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Oh, thank you for inviting.
So for those of you that have never heard Heccu, and about Heccu, I'm sure there's not too many of you. She's a very popular streamer, cosplayer, and she does a lot in the community in terms, she's been doing a lot of interviews recently. Heccu, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you've been up to?
So right now I'm mostly concentrating on streaming and making interviews with pro players. I mean, like the interviews are with pro players and streaming is just like my separate gig. The reason why I decided to start making interviews was because I didn't really see anything in the internet, and I was really, you can say, like, disappointed, because that's the type of content that I was really interested in. So if nobody is making it, might as well just make myself, right?
That's great. I saw your Reddit post from, I guess it was a week or two ago, where you were talking about having more content creators, like, you know, try and give more exposure to those pro players. And some interesting things came to light there too. Like I never knew there was press conferences after games. Is that a thing that they always do at LAN events? They
do. It's like, so when it comes to Western clashes, I visited all of them. I didn't go to the mid-season brawl. And didn't go to Eastern clashes because it's obvious, it's too far away. When it comes to Western clashes, I went twice to Katowice and once to Kiev. So when I arrived to the first Western clash, they also had press conferences. So like you sit down, all the press is just standing, filming, asking questions to the players. And the first time when I arrived, I was like, okay, there's no point of making this content like to film or to post anywhere because somebody will do it. Like, and you don't just want to copycat, like it'll be like the same content. After the tournament, I noticed that nobody posted anything from that press conference. The same thing happened in Kiev. So people were filming, taking interviews, but nothing is being posted. And that's why for the third Western Clash, I was like, okay, if nobody's doing it, I'm doing it. And I managed to do it quite efficient. Like it would be like this. There's a press conference. I set up the camera. I film it. They go away, watch games. Then there's another best of 3, or I don't remember, it was best of 5 in Saturday. But yeah, I sit down, I render the video, and by the time I upload it on YouTube, there's a new team to interview. So it was like, I was really, I would say, like, disappointed in the press by the fact that they just don't make this content, because like it's super good content that is super easy to do, and they actually film it, so they have the material, but they don't post it. So it was like, Reddit, you need to do this.
The Reddit vent. And yeah, that's a great place to vent, right? Vent frustration. I mean, a lot of people have been venting about Hero League this week, but that's a great thing. I mean, I'm a sports fan. I'm a big hockey fan. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in the playoffs. They're actually playing right now, and I'm taping the hockey game. But one thing that I love about like professional sports, esports included, is being able to follow the storylines of the players too, right? Like it's all about the personalities as well as the game. The game's a great part of it, but you know, having a favorite team, having a favorite player, the only way you can get those is by getting that kind of storyline, like content, that exposure to the actual players themselves, so they're not just like words on the screen moving around attached to a character.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's like the best way to connect to the players. And if we don't if we don't get interviews or we don't like see like as I mentioned in the Red post, like the human side of the players, it's just impossible to connect to them, like with them. So yeah.
So what's it like interviewing HGC players? Like what's that experience like?
Oh, it's really fun because in the beginning you just don't know what to expect because like you just see them on the screen like like being all professional talking to each other about the comms and stuff like that. Then you meet them like in real life and they're actual people with like I don't know, they're funny, they make jokes, they're cool, and it's like it's really enjoyable to get to know them closer.
So
That's really cool.
do you have a favorite interview? You must, after, or at least maybe one or two favorites that you might want to expose here.
I have my two favorite interviews. So the first one was made with Shrimpy in Kiev, and it's my favorite because it was it's like it was the first and only time when I was feeling so hard that I had to make like 3 retakes. So basically, like we sit down, like you can imagine Shrimpy. He's like not a very open guy, like and when we just started the interview, he was feeling like maybe like a little bit stressed, like a little bit stiff. So like we sit down and like I'm like I'm in a dress, I'm all pretty and stuff like that. They're like it's like hello, this is Heccu and welcome to the mid-season brawl. And they're like, and he was like, what happened? Well, apparently we're at the mid-season brawl because it was Western Clash. I get up, I turn off the camera, I start it again, I sit down, and I do the same mistake again. Like my brain was just shutting down. I was like, what is happening? When I was like sitting down like for the third time, like my face was like this in the beginning of the video, and she'd be like sitting like this. You're like you're like, ah, she's gonna feel it again, yeah. So we ended up doing that, and it ended up being like fun with the fails. So and it was real nice because he got to relax, like because like first like you're worried, like then you see like things like this happen, you're like, oh no, we're good, we can chill.
That's a great way to break the ice, right? Like you just
get
them in the kind of mode that it doesn't matter so much if you fail, because I've already failed a few times, right?
Yeah, like you will not feel like you'll not look bad, like look at me. And my second one would be one of my recent ones with Zelia, because he's a very chill guy. Because I already mentioned it again, like in the Reddit post, like I wanted to interview him like a year ago. I wrote to him and he was like, like I'm not really into giving interviews right now. Like he was like really shy. Right now he's giving interviews after they win the games during HGC, and he was like he had like absolutely no problems giving me an interview. And so how it happened, like he arrives to the press area, we go like into the little booth where there's like the seats, like we sit down, and he's like, can I take off my shoes? Because like that's his thing. I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like he's like, oh yeah, like he takes off his shoes and like it's like whatever the player needs. But like, it was like a nice thing to know about him,
I have to watch him when he's playing, see if he takes off his shoes before the game starts now.
Yeah. Even when he's like receiving the trophy, he's like standing in socks every time. Like at least like during the last 2 times, like the Western Clashes were in Kiev, not in Kiev, in Katowice. Sorry.
See, it's like these little personal things that make the player so much more interesting. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to watch his interviews, like knowing those like little tidbits he dropped, and like just remember that. And it adds some more personality to those 2 players. So now that whenever I see them play too, I'll be like, oh, there he is. He's playing with no socks on.
Socks? Yeah, exactly.
Or if I see him and he's got his shoes on, I'll be like, he's not gonna play that well today. He's not allowed to take his shoes off. There's gonna be a problem here, and I'll know that extra inside information. So, Heccu, where can people find these interviews? Because I'll put the link in the show notes, but just for those people that are looking for them.
They can find them on my YouTube channel. That is Hansi Heccu. Cause I don't even remember why it was not just Heccu. Probably was taken. Because that's like the problem that I always have. It's like originally it's like my nickname is Heccu. No, I can wait. Do I have the time to tell like how did my nickname originate?
Of course, go right.
Like it'll be like pretty fast. So basically, my full name is Anastasia, and the short version is Nastya. So I decided that my nickname will be Nessie. So if you read my nickname in Cyrillic in Russian, you will actually read as Nessie, not as Heccu. But the problem with people is that not everyone in the internet knows Russian. So I kept on getting called Heccu. I was like, okay, I'm just staying with this nickname. But there were some places where this nickname would be taken. So I started using like an alternative. Like, okay, sometimes I'll be somewhere in some places like Heccu, in some places I'll be Hansi. Then there were places where both things were taken. So I had to go for Hansi Heccu, and that was never taken anywhere. So yeah. You can find my my videos on YouTube at channel Hansi Heccu.
Well, I can feel your pain because Daz is taken pretty much anywhere. So I always have to put like a HOTS on the end or something, which I feel like is a bit of a cop-out. Yeah, I should just say Daz 123 from now on. I actually started a World of Warcraft account recently, and I didn't want to change my name from Daz, and I didn't want to put like Daz HOTS or something in Warcraft. So I ended up putting as many Z's as I could until it wasn't taken. I think it was like 8 Z's. So it was Daz. The things you have to do to make sure your username isn't taken.
Yeah, that's problematic.
Anyways, a couple of questions. We had some questions that people were asking in our Discord. Well, first off, I guess, do you have any tips or advice for people trying to crack into streaming? Because you're doing it pretty well and you're a very active streamer, so I'm sure you've got some advice you can lend to people looking to crack in.
I would say, first of all, you need to think, why do you want to stream? So, like, what is your goal? Is your goal to become a big streamer? Is your goal to have fun? Or, for example, if like for example, my goal is to use streaming as a platform to improve and to grow. Because like with streaming, like the problem with from where I originated, there's no esports in my home country, so there was no way I could kind of like like you first like grow in one esports and then like scene, then like you move into the other one. It doesn't really work, so I had to find like other ways, and I decided to take the streamer part, like the streamer path. So yeah, it's like it's up to you like first like to decide what is your goal, because I mean if your goal is like to become a really big streamer, it will be way more complicated than to use it as a platform to grow or to improve. Because I mean there's a lot of people just want to do that, and if you don't get the numbers, you just feel depressed and bad, and that's what happens usually in the beginning. Other recommendations. Don't feel bad of advertising your stream to your friends. I saw that very often, that people would like start streaming, but nobody would know that they stream. Even their friends, because like they feel too shy, they think that they'll get judged by their friends. But the thing is, when you have 0 viewers, like why is there a reason for somebody to come to your channel and watch you? Like, I mean, there, for example, if your channel is, like if you have like something that is really different, of course people will arrive. But if it's like similar to the other ones, but like you maybe have like a really good personality, if you have 0 viewers, people might just like not come. And when you don't have like your chat, it's pretty hard to just talk to yourself, because that's what you need to do during streaming. Like you need to try to entertain people. When you can have a discussion, it's not a problem. When you just talk to yourself, at some points you'll be like, okay, I just have no idea what to say like at this point. So when you have at least your friends in your chat, I don't know, you get like 5 viewers. That means that at least you're not in the bottom of the list of the game that you're playing, and you have somebody to interact. And when somebody arrives to your stream and sees there's something happening, they also want to participate in that. But if you have like 0 viewers, somebody decides to come and check your stream, and you're just like sitting like this, like not doing anything, like it will not be like they will not stay. They'll just like go to another stream like where something is actually happening. So yeah, I would say those are like the main points.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people do try getting into it, and it can be a very frustrating experience trying to get into the streaming game. So, any advice is always appreciated. And like I've been over to your stream before, and like you're very interactive with chat, and I can see how that's a big plus and keeps people there, because they're interacting with a streamer and they're not just sitting there watching someone play a game. They're actually kind of taking part in the experience as well.
Oh, and you also need to like enjoy the process, and also play the games that you can actually enjoy. Because like if you play something because like, oh, it's so popular but it's not your thing, it will be hard for you to be like to keep on doing it. It's just not enjoyable, and that's the most important thing, to enjoy the process.
Well, it's a game. You got to have fun doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're doing like for fun. Like there's like if you're suffering, I mean, there are people that will enjoy watching you suffer because, like, but usually it's not how it works. Like, people want to have like fun on Twitch or on YouTube. It depends, like, where you're just streaming.
Cool. And one other thing that we wanted to talk to you about as well is you've been known to do a lot of cosplay in your time. I love Halloween. Me and my wife love Halloween. My kids love Halloween. We take every opportunity to dress up as often as we can. I know there's a lot of work that goes into like preparing costumes and getting prepared for like professional level cosplay, not the kind of hacker stuff. And money too, money and time. And just like you hear cosplayers, like, just the ones that go to BlizzCon, for instance, they talk about how many hours, how many months they put into these costumes. Like what got you into cosplaying in the first place, and what do you like about it? What is it that keeps you, like, putting in this time to do the cosplay? Because you've got to love it a lot, I'm assuming, to be able to do this.
So like, I will not lie, I didn't do cosplay for some time because I don't know, I don't have time, and then I find excuses and stuff like that. But like, I still feel myself as if I'm a cosplayer because I really like this hobby. I started a long time ago, like the first time when I visited a local anime fest. Like, for me, it was like, whoa, cosplay exists. Like, and then next year I started cosplaying. So of course it started with anime, it started with manga, and then like it went with computer games. So basically whatever I was interested in, I was like, oh yes, I want to be this. Now I'm in this. It's just like, as long as you don't have too many plans, like, then you can actually do something. Because like, if you just start one thing and you just then jump to another thing, like, you'll never have anything finished. But yeah, but that's like a lot of time. And if you actually want a good costume, that's also probably like a lot of money.
Yeah, because there's different levels of costumes, right? There's the kind that you make for Halloween just to kind of go out and you maybe spend a few hours on, and there's the cosplay level where if you want to make it look professional, it takes
something
that much more time.
Sexy.
That too.
That's the ultimate Halloween costume.
Well, not when I wear them, that's for sure. I always go for funny over sexy personally, because this body you can't see on camera right now. It's nothing to crack a whip on. I don't even know if that's a saying, but I'll use it here anyways. But anyways, are you gonna go to BlizzCon? Are you gonna, if you do go to BlizzCon, are you gonna plan on taking part in the cosplay contest maybe?
It's like, if I'll finally finish my costume that I started 1.5 years ago, because it's Valera, so it's like really related to World of Warcraft, to Hearthstone, to Heroes, like to almost everything, then I'll take it with me. If not, then not. I just hope I'll find. My problem right now is, for example, right now I don't have like problems buying materials, because like this is the problem that I had many years before, and was like like studying in school, like I don't have like pocket money and stuff like that. Right now it's more of a problem of having time, because of the projects, because of streaming, because of interviews, and then there's also studying, because that's what I'm also doing right now. Like, I'm getting my master's degree in biology, and that takes some time. So yeah,
I can imagine. Well, you've got till November, so cross my fingers when me and Mystic head down there. We'll be meeting you in person for the first time, Heccu, and the first time that you've been to BlizzCon, from what I understand as well, if you end up being able to make the trip.
Yes, I really want to go there, because I never went to NA, I never went to BlizzCon, so it's like this year is the year that I need to go there.
Two birds with one stone. We hope to see you there.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's move along on the show here. One thing I did forget to thank was our patrons over at patreon.com/trollsgg that make this all possible. If you're looking for a way to support the show, you can head over to patreon.com/trollsgg. We've got some new stretch goals, including after show games, which we just recently met. So we will be doing after show games after every Nexus Trolls and Troll and HGC podcast, including tonight. And always, we thank our Troll of the Week. Troll of the Week this week is Nation, who is quick to say, "Save me a spot." Last time, as soon as the show ended, we saved you a spot, and we also saved you a spot in our hearts for the Troll of the Week this week. Thanks, Nation, for being a friend of the show. And with that, let's get into the news.
Someday, this will make a great story.
So just a few news items here we want to cover before we head into the patch notes and the Trolling the Nexus segment. First off, Bush League. the beer league that we do with the guys over at Gankbush Squad and Nexus Commentaries. Me and LiQuiud play on a team in that league with viewers, and we lost to Tower Baron's team. Turns out you're supposed to ban Fenix, not let him through the draft. We learned that the hard way and got dominated by both Fenix and Diablo. And apparently the other team's name is Don't Ban Diablo, and we didn't ban Diablo. Turns out there was a reason they named their team that, because they've got an amazing Diablo player on the other team. So if you want to watch us get stomped, you can head over to trolls.gg/bush -league. All the VODs will be up there shortly. We're playing next Monday at 9:45 Eastern Standard Time. We're taking on Zexorus from Nexus Commentaries team. That should be good. Expect some cheese. We got some good strategies up our sleeves for that one. Deckard Cain was announced at PAX East, the highly anticipated hero. We pretty much knew it was going to be Deckard Cain, unless you're LiQuiud and you lost the bet with Royal Light about that one. But he's going to be hitting the PTR in about 2 or 3 weeks, probably 2 weeks, I believe the dev said, now that we're a week on from the announcement. We're going to be covering our first thoughts on Deckard Cain in the Troll and the Nexus section, so we're not going to get into too much detail there. Next on the list, BlizzCon dates have been announced, November 2nd and 3rd. Pretty much when everyone expected, right after Halloween. Everyone's saying they've got to go early for the Halloween parties, spend Halloween in Anaheim. I kind of want to do that too, so I might be heading down a little bit early. I also hear Halloween at Disney is amazing, and BlizzCon, for those of you who don't know, in Anaheim is like right across the street from Disneyland. So I might have to make a trip up there to see what Disney's got cooked up their sleeve. But the first round of tickets goes on sale May 3rd at 7 p.m. Pacific. They're $199 US. The second round of tickets goes on sale May 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific, and these tickets go fast. Make sure that you are there ready to press that button as soon as 9 p.m. hits. And if you hit the queue, don't reload the screen, just wait it out. If you don't get in the first round, make sure you've got like a friend or something, try and get them too. It helps to team up, because it's kind of like a 50-50 shot if you get them or not. But then if you miss out in the first round, there's always the second round too, and there's usually people looking to sell tickets along the way as well. So Mystic, are you coming to BlizzCon this year?
I will do my best to make time for that.
I know LiQuiud's already booking hotels and everything, so we want to make sure we do it right this year. Now that we've gone once, we know exactly what to expect, and we know how to handle things in advance, like booking hotels as far in advance as possible, so you don't end up in a shoe 3 blocks from the convention center. But looking forward to seeing everyone there. And also at BlizzCon, the day before it starts, there's Con Before the Storm, and this is something, Heccu, if you end up coming to BlizzCon, you definitely have to make it to Con Before the Storm. This is creators, content creators pre-con event where there's a lot of meetups with HGC teams, personalities. They do a whole bunch of different panels with podcasts for all the different games too. It's a really great place to meet a whole bunch of people in the community. They have got a really big art exhibit as well. It's a really fantastic event the day before. It doesn't cost a dime too. I'm sure they're going to be having a Patreon jump up soon. It's a crowdfunded event, but it's a blast. And definitely, if you can make it down to BlizzCon, book your plane tickets a couple days early so you can make sure you catch Con Before the Storm.
Sounds good.
It's absolutely fantastic. I feel like one of the problems with BlizzCon is that there's so much going on. It's hard to talk to a lot of people and meet a lot of the people that you went down to the convention that you might know in game, but you've never met in real life, just to hang out with them and spend some time with them. Con Before the Storm is the perfect opportunity for that. It's a lot more of a socializing event, and it's a great place to meet up the day before the con and actually catch up with people that you wanted to meet there. And then the final piece of news, MasterLeague.net got purchased by the LiQuiud Network, who does Liquipedia. Team LiQuiud, they are now owners of MasterLeague.net. They're not changing anything. They're just bringing it under the Team LiQuiud umbrella. Master League was up for sale since January, so I guess finally they finished negotiations with Master League. Okay, so that's the news. Now we're going to be moving into the patch notes blitz. And there was a patch that dropped today, and that patch included changes to 16 heroes, I believe, there, give or take. So we're going to go over them in a kind of a shotgun style. We're going to take 1 minute per hero. I'm going to give a little preamble as to what changed on the hero, and I'm going to pass the ball to either Heccu or Mystic or maybe myself, and we'll talk as fast as we can, because 1 minute goes fast, about the hero and what we think about them as well. Okay, so let's just get the timer ready here. The first hero on the list is Falstad. By the way, if you notice Fenix is missing from this list too, we're going to talk about him in our main segment. But for Falstad, level 1 Gathering the Storm talent will now actually return 10 mana per hero hit as well. And on level 1, he also got changed to his Wingman Bribe talent that everyone knows. And this is also going to reduce the cooldown of Lightning Rod by 3 seconds, further boosting maybe his Lightning build. And level 4 Updraft, the talent that increases barrel roll distance and the shield amount and the duration of the shield, is the duration of the shield is actually now going to be permanent. So you don't actually lose that shield, so you can pre-roll before you actually get into engage to have a little bit of extra health pool. So Mystic, why don't you start with this one, bud, while I try and fix our timer here. And you've got 1 minute, bud. You're on the clock.
Okay, I think these are some interesting changes because it shows that Blizzard is willing to take this in the direction of the talents of like what they did with Sonya, where they're like, all right, here's Merc Master, but it also has some combat effectiveness. We're throwing some extra stuff on there. So Wingman is not only a bribe talent now, but it also reduces Lightning Rod's cooldown by 3 seconds. So just a little bit of extra power there. And I like how they're taking, this old hero, instead of like completely reworking him, they're just changing up some talents to change it up a little bit.
Heck, we don't see Falstad very much. You think this might bring him into relevance a little bit even?
Maybe just a little bit. Like Falstad, if you ever see him, it's mostly like on global maps, right? Because like of his trade. He was really lacking damage, so I'm not exactly sure how it will end up for him. I feel like he just needs like a little bit more damage.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see more buffs to him. Just like Blizzard, they usually like to just tune up the dial a little bit at a time, just because they don't want to overdo it and make a hero OP, because things can snowball pretty easily.
No.
Yes, last thing we need is an OP Falstad in the Nexus. Next on the list is Hanzo. Hanzo got a change to natural agility, his jumping trait. The cooldown has been increased from 20 to 25 seconds. Dragon Strike, the big ultimate that he's known for, but not many people take, the damage has been increased by 9% to try and compete with Dragon Arrow. Levels 4 has serrated arrows. The bonus damage granted versus minions, mercs, and monsters has been reduced from 150 to 100%. So it's not quite as easily for Hanzo to burst down those mercs and minions as well as those immortals on BOE. So, Heccu, we'll toss the ball to you. What do you think of Hanzo? Do you think these nerfs were warranted?
He's pretty annoying, and like the level 4 talent, like even today I had like a hero league game. We wiped pretty like early game 4 members of the enemy team, and like I ping like, okay, we're going boss. 4 of us arrived to a boss, and Arcasi is taking a temple. I'm like, we need your damage. And then I just see how like the boss is melting from Hanzo, and I'm like, okay, no, we're fine, we're good. It's absolutely insane how much damage he can like deal to bosses, to mercenary camps and stuff like that. So I think like he kind of needed that, because I mean, he's an assassin. Like you can maybe expect something like that, like I know like Sylvanas with her talents that give like more damage to minions, stuff like that, but not like from a Hanzo,
Yeah, he was finding that kind of weird.
He kind of needed that.
That weird niche. Even if you caught him on like a Blackheart's Bay, you'd be like, "Where's Hanzo?" Then all of a sudden the boss is taken. You're like, "Oh, that's where he was. He was soloing the boss." So you shouldn't be able to do that as a Hanzo.
Job's done.
Okay, next we've got Li Ming. Li Ming, level 1 Ether Walker, which is a talent I always kind of was hoping would be one that could be able to be used. I did get a buff. So this is where a lot of people probably don't know how this talent works, and not a lot of people take it. But if Li Ming hasn't taken damage in the last 5 seconds, you get a free mana teleport, so it doesn't cost you any mana, and the next teleport is on a 2-second lower cooldown. So you can pretty much spam that. You can almost like keep using that over and over again, get like a lot of mobility almost as fast as mount speed out of combat. So they reduce the time with no damage for that to proc from 5 seconds to 4 seconds. But probably the more important change is to her not overpick, but higher pick talent on level 4, Dominance, where takedowns would restore health, very popular in her Calamity build. The health now restores 30% of your missing health. Before it was 20% of your maximum health. So it sounds like a buff at first, but it's actually a nerf unless you're below 33% health, because you'll actually get less health back. And you can't do like 4 takedowns to get back to 100%. 4 takedowns would only get you like 60 or 70% because of how the math works here. Okay, so Mystic, we'll head it over to you, bud. What do you think of Li Ming nerf to dominance, particularly, or Ether Walker, whatever you want to talk about?
I think the nerf to dominance, it's kind of frustrating to play against when she gets a lot of resets, but I don't really think it was needed because, I don't know, it's like she needs to get a kill or a reset for that to happen initially. And then Ether Walker, I think it's a cool change, but the problem is not really with Ether Walker. It's that the other two talents are a lot stronger. So unless they make this talent a lot stronger, then it's not going to really change much. Because Force Armor, really good. Power Hungry is also really good. So,
Heccu, when you play Li Ming, do you go Calamity? Is this going to be messing up your builds?
It's like I'm thinking of like I'll not be able to make the plays that I used to be. You know, like when almost all of your teammates are dead, and the same it goes like for the enemy team, and then you're just like a grasshopper. You hope like from one person to another and just kill them, and then the enemy team is dead, and you're 100%.
Job's done.
So I'm not sure if that's good or not, because situations like this didn't really happen very often. Like you can see like some plays like this, but I would say like all in all, she's not a broken hero right now. I mean, she's not the Li Ming that was on the release. Like, thank God for that. Yeah. But Calamity, like, did she need it? Like, not sure.
Yeah, see,
she like need the changes.
This actually helps her too if she's at low health. So if she's like a sliver of health left, that first reset's actually gonna give her more health back too. So if you're like living on the edge kind of play style where you're right down low, you Calamity and you get a big boost to health, Calamity again. 2 Calamities is probably about equal to what it was before. And if you're high health, you don't really need that health back anyway, so maybe it doesn't make that much of a difference in the end. But I guess we'll see what her win rate does and how her builds change coming out of this, if at all. So next on the list is Nova. Nova was a little bugged today, apparently. They just released a hot fix a couple hours ago to fix something that was wrong with Snipe. But I think Heccu was saying, we're talking off camera, that you could just spam Snipe, I guess. There was some sort of bug that reset her cooldowns on it. But either way, it sounds like that's been fixed. But other than that, there's also been some changes to her, most notably a nerf to her kind of main build. Level 7 Perfect Shot, that's the talent that reduces the cooldown of Snipe by half when hitting a hero. Will now also actually grant her 2 stacks for Snipe's stacking damage passive. You know how she stacks damage on her Snipe with consecutive heroes hit. It just gives you 2 stacks of those instead of 1. Level 13 Ionic Force Field, which gives Nova 25 armor when stealth is broken, has had a duration increase from 2 to 3 seconds. Level 13 Double Tap, that gives Pinning Shot 2 charges, will also now decrease Pinning Shot cooldown by 2 seconds. Level 16 Lethal Decoy, that increased Hollow Decoy's damage, has had the damage of decoys reduced from 35 to 30% of Nova's damage, getting a bit of a nerf there. Level 16 Crippling Shot, that gives reduced armor from Pinning Shot. The armor negation has also been reduced from 25 to 20. And then level 16 Explosive Rounds, that deal AoE damage around Snipe Impact, has had the AoE damage increased from 50 to 70% of the Snipe. So Mystic, we'll hand this one over to you. What have they done to Nova here? What's the ramifications of this?
I mean, Perfect Shot, it just allows her to stack stuff a lot faster, and it's typically the talent that I went anyway. But granting her 2 stacks of Snipe makes that, like, if you miss a Snipe, it makes losing that a little bit less, like, impactful for you, because if you can land a couple Snipes after that, then you have all your stacks back up again. The other changes, like the Ionic Force Field talent, which I didn't usually take, but it's really useful for, like, if you make a mistake, it's really useful for that. And then the Double Tap, it also decreases Pinning Shot cooldown by 2 seconds. That's pretty big, actually, because it allows her to have a lot more CC with that one. Lethal Decoy, I mean, decoys did pretty good damage, and this just reduces it a little bit. The armor negation, I'm kind of actually sad about, but it puts it more in line because Double Tap, lower cooldown by 2 seconds, that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Job's done.
And I've never really been a fan of Nova, so I'd call this probably an overall nerf from what I'm seeing here, because anytime you nerf the main build, I'd say it's generally a nerf to the hero, unless you've got a lot of compensation in other areas. But the next hero we're going to be talking about is Tracer. I've been seeing a lot of Tracer about recently. So Blizzard said, hey, we got to stop this. So they took they took her health and health regen and reduced. I don't know why that's so funny. They took her health and health regen and reduced it by 5%, and reduced her basic attack damage by 3.5%. So Heccu, is Tracer a problem?
It's like it all comes to a draft, because sometimes like a good Tracer can be a problem if you have nothing to stop her from your team. You know, like something like a Warren with a talent and stuff like that. If you have that, she's like out of the game. But it's not like you cannot know if it's like not the first pick if they will have that. So seeing like Tracer getting a little bit nerfed is nice, because getting wrecked by Tracer is like never enjoyable. At least like in Hero League. I'm just talking about that.
Yeah, I mean it's Tracer's easily enough counterable if she's picked early enough in the draft too. What do you think, Mystic? Do you think that she was a problem and needed to be nerfed? I mean, Fenix is getting so much attention with the first bans all the time. We kind of ignore heroes like Tracer that can also be kind of cancerous in the right environment.
I think that what Blizzard did was like they tried to change Tracer so that she'd be like less cancerous.
Job's done.
And then she turned out to be still strong because she's cancerous now in other areas. And they're like, all right, so we took away her burst and we gave her more health and like a little bit more auto attack damage. Wait, that just made her more cancerous because she has more health and more auto attack damage. Well, we're just dialing that back too. Well, what are we left with? Well, we just basically nerfed her her entire kit, you know.
Classic Blizzard, right? Okay, Varian. Varian got a health and health regen increase of 4%, but this is counterbalanced because Taunt gives less bonus health. It used to give 30%, now it only gives 25%. So basically, after level 4, if you're picking Taunt, this is kind of a wash, which I would say makes it a buff to Colossus Smash and Twin Blades. Heccu, are you going to be going Twin Blades Variant anytime soon?
No, like I used to play, like if I had to play Varian, I would always play, I would always go for Taunt. But I didn't play too much Varian after his recent change. Like I played like one game, and I was so disappointed because before you would have like 2 stacks of your W, and you were just unkillable, and it was just insane. And right now, like okay, you don't get damage during that little period, and then you're like, and no Varian. So like as a solo tank, he doesn't work right now. I at least it doesn't work for me. Maybe I just need to get to new stuff, like get used to the new stuff.
What I'm hearing from Blizzard here by saying that, you know, we're not changing anything else other than like this kind of balance of health between Taunt and his base health is that they kind of like where he's at with his taunt build, but they wanted to see more Colossus Smash and variety in, you know, Twin Blades as well. So it'll be interesting to see if more people will be picking those or if it's just gonna be same old Taunt variant that we usually see. But I gotta say, whenever I see a Twin Blades variant, a lot of people get nervous, but I actually think it's a lot of fun to see that in my games.
Wind Blades.
Yeah. Wind Blades a variant.
Or Fun Blades also works.
There's a lot of puns and memes that can go along with variant there. Next on the list is Medivh, one of my personal favorite heroes. And he got addressed here because there was some parts of his kit that were a little cancerous and that needed to be addressed. Specifically, his Arcane Explosion Circle of Protection talent. But let's go over his complete changes here. Level 7 Force of Magic is the talent that gives spell power boost when protecting a threshold amount of damage. They gave this a boost. Bonus spell power has been increased from 20 to 25%. And one of the reasons is they're trying to draw people away from this other talent, Arcane Explosion at level 7. This is the one that adds AoE damage on Protect Expiry. So the base damage and bonus damage from mitigated damage has been nerfed by about 12%. So those bombs that go off after Protect is done are going to be doing significantly less damage. Level 13, Circle Protection, which made Arcane Explosion kind of a problem to begin with, is when they reworked Varian, they made it so that this shields all the allies in the area with a talented version of Protect, which means that it also gets this Arcane Explosion effect. So you can put this Protect on multiple heroes in the same area. You get kind of explosions happening all over the place, all targeting maybe the same hero, almost instantly deleting heroes. So they've actually made it so that if you choose Circle of Protection, it's going to increase Force of Will's cooldown now by 2 seconds. It's an 8-second cooldown base, so this pushes up to 10 seconds cooldown. On level 13, they've also got Reabsorption. Again, they're trying to push you away from that Circle of Protection talent. This increases the amount of health return from damage mitigated by your Protects. the heal amount has been increased from 60 to 70%. And I believe this got buffed before as well, so they're really trying to push people on this absorption talent. Heccu, do you play any Varian?
Varian or Medivh?
Oh, Medivh, sorry. We already talked about Varian.
No, I don't play I don't play Medivh, but I had situations, for example, when we would have a really good draft with a really good Kel'Thuzad, and when it comes like to something that needs to blow up the enemy teams, Medivh is like the perfect counter to that, because like it's just like the shields soak everything, and then like the mage is like, okay guys, I did everything. They jump into him, he's dead, like, okay guys, sorry. So like seeing some nerfs to Medivh, it's like, again, it's like comes to like, in the end, like it comes to the draft, like in some situations Medivh will be like useless. In some situations, like he'll be still OP. So it's like, but the arcane explosions were like really annoying, I would say, like that, because like you're trying to chase somebody and then like you're like, oh, you're half HP, you're like, oh, then you need to turn around, and then that person like is running you, like, and then there's like the Benny Hill song and you're like one way, the other one, and stuff like that. So maybe like some reduction like was needed.
I think so as well. This kind of reminds me back when Kael'thas, you used to be able to put your living bombs on the minions and explode the whole minion wave, and it would just blow someone up if they're in the minion wave when they exploded. This kind of reminds me of that, because you protect like a Samuro, three Samuros like around one hero. If you mitigate any damage when that happens, when they expire, boom, like dead whoever's in the middle of that explosion, right? It just feels like it's not the intended way that hero's supposed to operate.
When I said that it's good that Li Ming is not the same as when she was on release, thank God Kael'thas is not the same, because that was just absolutely insane what he could do. Like,
yes, he was fun to play, but horrible to play against. Those spreading bombs, oh my goodness, that
like you put one chain bomb. Yeah, you put like one chain bomb, and if your enemy, like if the enemy team is not coordinated enough, they just spread it forever, and like, and they just die in fire, and you're like, like suddenly like sitting, relaxing, like while the enemy team is like dying, like you just getting all the kills.
You just drop the mic and hearth back home, and everyone's dead, right?
yeah, exactly.
Okay, next on the list is actually a really big change, and one that a lot of people are talking about, and that's Sylvanas. Sylvanas got a basic attack damage increase by 6%, but that was counterbalanced by the fact that abilities no longer disable structures. Only auto attacks will disable structures. So just to give everyone a little clarity and clarification on what happens here, she'll still disable structures with auto attacks. She can't use her Q to disable like the tower and like the fort at the same time. She has to focus one thing instead of being able to do multiple things. She can't haunting wave at like a tower, then engage on and start auto attacking it to make sure she doesn't take any tower damage while approaching it. She's now going to take at least one tower shot walking in, so it's kind of reduced that effectiveness she has against structures. This still affects minions and mercs the same way it did before, so you can still take merc camps just as easily as you could before with Sylvanas. You can still disable minion waves, but they wanted to make sure that they didn't have that kind of crazy push you could get that would snowball a certain lane, like especially early game too. So Mystic, we can go to you first on this one. What do you think about this Sylvanas change?
I think it was an interesting change because they changed it so that her abilities no longer disable the structures. It really, in my opinion, it opens up Blizzard's ability to change Sylvanas as like a hero where, hey, she was really strong because she could do this, but now since her abilities no longer disable structures, they can work on buffing her team fight power or give her some more utility if they wanted, like slows and whatnot. And right now they just buffed her auto attack damage, but if it turns out that, she's still lacking in, just like other areas, then they could give her something else too.
How about you, Heccu? Do you like playing Sylvanas?
I do like playing Sylvanas, but when it comes to basic attack, I don't feel that I do too many basic attacks on Sylvanas, because, for example, at least like during the laning phase, for example, if you're on Haunted Mines, like you have like a top laner and you have like a 4-man on bot lane, like all you try to do is like poke them. Like that's why sometimes you can have like a very nice number like in hero damage, just because like you keep them poking, like with you spread the W and like you poke with the Q. The auto attacks, like you really need to be like, I feel like really close, and as Sylvanas, you don't really want to be so close to the enemy team, especially if they have something, I don't know, like a Garrosh what else? Like a Diablo. So I'm not sure how much the increase in actually like attack damage is a buff for Sylvanas. But the fact that like now abilities like no longer disable the structures, I mean, at least like we'll not see the, I don't know, like level 1 no turrets on one lane and stuff like that. So that's something.
Blizzard did say.
Oh, and bosses or Braxes in 5 minutes. We'll not see that anymore.
Thank God. Yeah, there's nothing worse than being like, do we defend boss or do we defend the objective here, guys? Like that's pushing and be like, they've got Sylvanas. Everyone better be there defending that, or that's gonna push like all the way down to keep and core. You gotta be careful when there's Sylvanas on the other team. But Blizzard did say that they're gonna be changing her down the road to give her more team fight. They want to make her more of a team fight hero as opposed to just being like that one trick disabling structures. But like you said, Heccu, you can actually get a lot of damage out of Sylvanas. And I know one of our frequent guests here, Razai, says that you can get a lot of damage out of Sylvanas if you play her correctly in the team fight. But now we're moving on to the next hero on the list, which is Kharazim. So Kharazim had a small change today. Health and regen has been increased by about 4%. Always a nice little buff there, but also his level 1 Transcendence, as his healing spec, has had his healing output increased by 6%. So Mystic, is it time to dust off Kharazim and take him out of the garage?
I mean, the health and regen increase is really good. The Transcendence, I don't know, like, originally, I was thinking, hey, the buffs to Transcendence were really good, except it still wasn't taken, in favor of Iron Fists. So even with this buff to Transcendence, which I think is still pretty good, I don't know. Like the only thing that was really buffed, in my opinion, then it was this health, and it's okay.
Yeah, I've always liked playing Kharazim for the mobility, but it never feels like he can quite solo heal effectively. Heccu, do you like seeing Kharazims on your teams?
On my teams, not really.
I'm always
it's like
disappointed
you need
too.
to be, you really need to be like coordinated with the Kharazim and he's like a type of support that, for example, he kind of dies with you, or because like the way how his heal works, he needs to be close to you. So it's like very often there can be a situation when he cannot help either the front lane or the back lane if you're too spread. That's like I'm not a huge fan of Kharazim as support, but for example, sometimes he can be just so insane he would, I don't know, jump into a Gul'dan and just like punch him to death. Like like okay, like we don't need healing, like we're not getting damage, so like we don't care. I think they decide to buff the healing spec just because it was not really being taken, because I think everyone was just going for the damage build, because in the end like it was way better. So they just tried to make the other spec more appealing.
It always seems like any of these kind of multi-class like characters, like Kharazim or a variant, it's always going to be so tough to make it perfectly balanced across all specs. One always bubbles to the top, whether it be, in this case, if this brings Transcendence back up, or if Iron Fist or Insight ends up being the way to go. Who knows? I guess we'll tell with time. Malfurion is next. Malfurion is annoying to play against. He can get a lot of healing out. His regrowth heal has been reduced by 5%. Moonfire heal has been reduced by about 3.5%, so straight across the board healing nerfs on Malfurion. Level 4 Strangling Vines that reduce healing received to rooted targets. Used to reduce healing for 2 seconds, now it does it for 3 seconds, so a little bit of buff there. So, Malfurion. He's my most played hero, but ever since his rework, I just kind of never really got back into him. Either you guys like playing Malfurion at all? Want to take the ball on this one?
I mean,
I'm
I
not a
played.
support. Sorry.
Let's go to Mystic then.
I played quite a bit of Malfurion when, even when he wasn't reworked or anything. I really liked Malfurion, and then the only thing that really was bad about him was his mana, and then they fixed that with the Twilight Dream mana infusion thing, where he recovered more mana, and then they took that away, and people realized, hey, Twilight Dream's broken, and so I don't know, he's still really good. These are just trimming the numbers here, and just the icing on the cake. They're like, we'll just take away some of that healing reduction. 2 seconds now, 3 seconds. In my opinion, I think that's really huge, because that second of reduced healing can amount to quite a bit, actually. So,
yeah, well, I've always thought Malfurion, I liked him before this is showing my player level here, but I liked him because he wasn't as high of a skill cap healer. And ever since it became high skill cap, I always feel like there's just too much going on. It makes it harder to focus on what you need to do. And I was never just an effective Malfurion post rework. So I'm happy to see him get nerfed a little bit because he's one of the sports that I don't play a lot of recently. But talking about one of my favorite heroes, Chen got a buff, a well-needed one. So Chen, level 1, Accumulating Flame. This is the talent that increases damage over time when igniting heroes as a questing talent. This has rewards changed. So previously would grant Chen 25 armor for 1 second per hero ignited. Now it's going to grant 15 armor per hero ignited for a total of 3 seconds. Hope you could follow that. Level 1 Freshest Ingredients got an interesting change. This is his Globe Gathering quest that increases his health regen. It used to be capped at 30 globes. Now there's no more cap. So you can keep doing this over and over again. I'm not sure if this is a trap talent or not because 30 globes is quite a bit to get. But you can pair this with maybe an Alexstrasza who can create her own globes and get a globe every 15 seconds. Who knows? Maybe this is a huge hidden buff to the Chen Alexstrasza combo. Level 4 Keg Toss, increased keg damage per hero hit, now gives an extra charge. That gives an extra charge and range on completion of the quest. It used to give 3 damage per stack, now gives 4 damage per stack. So if you like Donkey Kong Chen, you just got your build buff there. And then finally, in level 7, Purifying Brew. That's the one that reduces stun and silence durations and makes stun and silences reset the cooldown of Fortifying Brew. That's your drink. And gives Chen 30% spell armor when drinking. Will now have the spell armor persist as long as he still has shields. And level 1 Freshest Ingredients, once that's finished, you can keep those shields post-drinking. So that, I guess, is a bit of a level 1, level 7 combination there that you can use. So... Heccu, before I pass the ball, do you play Chen at all? I know not a lot of people do, so is Chen one that you like?
I main tanks, but I don't play Chen.
Maybe I'll...
Like the only time when I actually see Chen on my team or in the enemy team is when one of the teams has Zagara. Because Zagara is really annoying to lane against, but Chen has no problems against her. She has no stuns or anything. So... but that's the only situation when I would see him. Maybe with some buffs, we actually see him outside of the lane versus Zagara.
What do you think of this uncapped questing talent with the regen? Do you think that is going to be viable, or do you think that's just a trap talent?
I mean, that means first of all, that talent will be really good on small maps where on the Spider Queen, where you can just run around and collect a lot of globes. Personally, I'm just waiting to see people making videos of how many globes they can actually gather and set up records.
Yeah.
I think it can be possible.
Job's done.
It can be a thing. But as I say, on a small map where you can actually get a lot of those globes.
That's the same thing I was thinking too. As soon as I saw that change, I was like, you know what's going to happen? There's going to be some posts on Reddit where they've got 100, 200 globes or something silly, and they'll just have a Rainer auto attacking them and just doesn't do anything because they're out regenning them. So it'll be interesting to see if that's feasibly possible. I somehow doubt that's going to make that big of a difference, but still, it's a nice little change to his level 1 there talent if you so choose it. Dahaka got a change to a few of his talents here, starting off with Adaptation. His ultimate, the cooldown was reduced from 90 to 80 seconds. Level 1 Enduring Swarm is the talent that gives spell armor when Dark Swarm is active. Has had his spell armor increased from 40 to 50. Level 4 Lurker Strain that gives Dahaka stealth and knockback and slows heroes near the emerge point will now slow heroes by 30% for 3 seconds. This used to be 2 seconds. Level 4 Hero Stalker that increases essence from hero takedowns by 100% will now also grant 1 essence per hero hit by Dark Swarm. And then finally, level 13 Ferocious Stalker that has Dark Swarm dealing 40% more damage when Breaststalker's movement speed bonus is active is now going to deal 50% bonus damage. Mystic, as soon as I saw this, I wanted to ask you a question straight up. Was this Hero Stalker on level 4 giving him more essence in team fight? Do you think this is going to make it a viable pick so he can get that essence back reliably in team fight to a significant degree?
Here's the thing. Taking Hero Stalker increases Dahaka's ability to fight in team fights a lot, but it gives up some of his solo lane ability because typically when you're fighting Dahaka you don't want to get hit by Dark Swarm, so it's gonna have almost zero use in the laning phase, and whereas the minion one you get a lot more essence from minions. That's gonna be a lot more useful in lane. So it's now you can pick and choose. You can go, okay, I want to play a more team fight Dahaka, and you could take Hero Stalker, or you can, keep playing the soak lane Dahaka and take the minion one. So I think that's really good to see here.
Cool. How about you, Heccu? What do you like about Dahaka's changes here?
I can agree on the fact that like the hacker will be able to participate more in fights, because I remember I never tried to main the hacker, but I always end up with the same problem. Like, you go into the fight with a lot of essence, you get damaged, you use the essence, and then you get damaged again, and you're out of the fight. So this is, as already like was mentioned before, like it's a really good talent for actual fights. The thing is, like, the hack is mostly picked for split pushing, like on big maps. So, and of course, like as a solo laner. So it maybe how, depending on how it is important for you, like actual team fights, because maybe you'll not even like have a comp for that. Like, you'll somehow like decide to avoid the team fights. On big map, you can actually do that.
Because you do lose out against level 4 that gives you more essence on minions, so that is something to compete against there.
And you can just live on that lane, like you don't care who is like standing against you.
Exactly. Next up is LiQiuD. Nice little quick notes here. Basic attack damage increased by 4%. Drain Hope cooldown reduced from 11 to 10 seconds. So Mystic, when we were playing in Bush League a couple weeks ago, our Blaze had problems holding up to LiQiuD. This is going to make his day a little bit worse if he comes up against another LiQiuD again. Do you think this changes LiQiuD that much, or are these just kind of small changes and small buffs to LiQiuD?
I mean, the basic attack damage increase, that basically means that it also increases his cleave damage, so he could potentially, like, clear out waves a little bit faster. The Drain Hope is, I think, is actually quite a big buff. 1 second, may not seem like a lot, but for a Drain Hope cooldown, which is LiQiuD's, like, primary survival tool, I think is really huge. So it also sounds like your Blaze may need to either stand on his fire a little bit more, recover a little bit more of his health, or dodge those Drain Hopes there.
Not the easiest thing to do with incoming LiQiuDs. I'm going to kind of move along here because we're starting to run into time crunches, so we're just going to move along to Tyrael. So Tyrael had some adjustments to him, and I don't play a ton of Tyrael, but I'm going to go over everything here. First off, the developers said that we're making adjustments focused on the viability of some of Tyrael's talents. In particular, Sword of Justice was not picked very often and was underperforming. We're addressing this talent by taking a few talents, Stalwart Angel, Burning Hail, and Smite the Wicked, and increasing their synergy with Sword of Justice by increasing the bonuses that Tyrael receives while Eldruin is out, but reducing the bonuses for teleporting afterwards. This should enhance Sword of Justice's playstyle by allowing players to teleport into a fight but still having an active Eldruins. So level 1, he got a few changes here. Let's go over them quickly. Level 1, Ardent Restoration, that grants healing to Tyrael when he's damaging a hero, has had its healing increased by 9%. Level 4, Stalwart Angel, that grants armor while Eldruin is on the ground, and 3 seconds after teleporting used to grant 20 armor. That's been increased to 25, but the duration after teleport has been reduced from 3 to 2 seconds. Level 7, Purge Evil, that grants bonus attack damage to Tyrael based on number of heroes hit with Spite. The basic attack damage bonus per hero hit increased from 35 to 45%. Level 16, Burning Halo, that gives Burning Aura to Tyrael and Eldruin, and additional damage to Tyrael after teleporting. The burn damage has been increased from 15 to 18, and bonus damage after teleporting has been increased from 100 to 150%, and bonus damage duration after teleporting has been reduced from 3 to 2 seconds. And then finally, level 16, Smite the Wicked, that recharges Smite faster while Eldruin is active, and after teleporting has had the cooldown recharge rate increased from 100 to 125%, and the cooldown recharge rate, though, only persists after teleporting for 2 seconds instead of the previous 3. So Mystic, what's going on here with Tyrael?
Well, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head here where, with the developer notes, but I think that most of these are pretty much straight up buffs. Like, you lose a second on your teleport buffs, but you gain, like, more out of the buffs themselves. So they kind of just buffed all the I wouldn't say underperforming, like underpicked rather, I guess. Some of them are underperforming. But yeah, they just buffed all those, and they didn't really nerf any of the more picked talents, so they're just straight up giving Tyrael more diversity here. So I think it's all well and good for Tyrael, our Archangel of Justice.
Well, Tyrael mains can smile today then, I guess. Okay, so finally, our last hero on the list is Zarya. Zarya had a 3% increased health and health regen. Grenade damage was increased by 5.5%. And probably the most notable change was Graviton Surge, which a lot of people don't take. The cooldown has been reduced from 80 to 60 seconds. Heccu, is this going to be the go-to ultimate now on Zarya?
I mean, I actually really like that heroic, but the only thing I disliked in it is the cooldown, and I was like, the difference like is 20 seconds. That's quite a lot. So it might be possible that we'll see more Zarya with this heroic than the other one.
It's great for wombo combo potential. And like you said, the reason I think a lot of people would always go Expulsion Zone is just because of the short cooldown on Expulsion Zone. This is bringing the other heroic much more in line with Expulsion Zone. I think we're going to see a big shift here towards Graviton Surge, and that excites me because I like the wombo combo potential from it as well.
I just hope it will not be a situation like it was with Earthquake and Troll, when like they decreased the cooldown, it became like super insane, and they're like, okay, no way, we're getting you back, it's fine, boys, we're good.
That's the Blizzard yo-yo though, right? They do that all the time.
Yeah.
They over push it one way. That's why they like to do these small tweaks, but then every once in a while they do something big like this, and you're like, hey, well, 20 seconds, that's quite a big jump. I would have expected more of like maybe a 10-second change, but 20 seconds on an 80-second cooldown, that's a big difference. Okay, now we're getting into the main segment, and we've been talking a lot, but we've had a lot to talk about, which is trolling the Nexus. And for this segment, we go over our main topics for the show. We have 5 minutes to cover each one. So the topics that we're going to be covering today, we've got Stay a While and Listen. That's my best Deckard Cain impression. So we're going to be talking about Deckard Cain. We were going to do double time. I think we'll only talk about him for 5 minutes here. Then we're going to talk about Lore of the Storm, which is just related to the PAX East announcement about the lore they're going to be bringing into Heroes of the Storm. Then the next 3 topics, MMR Matchmaking, Fixing Ranked, and Toxic Cleanup Aisle 3. We're going to be talking about the developer update that they just basically dropped. And we didn't talk about the new segment because we're going to be covering it here. Then we're going to be talking about Look Who's Talking. That's just talking about voice comms and how it's progressed over the past couple of months. Fenix's Tune Down. We didn't talk about Fenix yet because we're going to be talking about him now and the nerfs that Fenix was well in line for. And then finally, we're going to pull out one of Heccu's favorite heroes, Johanna, one of my favorite heroes as well, and we'll see what there is to love about Johanna and why we think you should be taking her out into your games as well. So, starting with the first talk on the list, let's stay a while and listen. I take any opportunity I can to impersonate Deckard Cain, and now that he's in the Nexus, I feel like I can. And I know it's a horrible impersonation, but I try.
My turn. It's my turn. Here we go. Stay a while and listen.
We should have a vote to see who's got the best Deckard Cain impersonation. So I'll go over the kit here. So Deckard Cain, I feel like he needs no introduction. He's the Diablo character that is there with you pretty much all the time, taking you through all the quests, and he's kind of like that overseeing entity in a lot of the Diablo games. So he was announced at PAX East as the next hero during the panel they had there. He's coming to the PTR. They said in 2 to 3 weeks, so now that we're a week out from that, it's probably either next week or the week after, we're assuming, and probably coming live the week after that. He's going to be a melee hero, hitting with his cane. I was expecting him like maybe toss spells or something, but he's a melee support. So his trait is called Fortitude of the Faithful. So when at least one other allied hero is nearby, Deckard Cain gains 10 armor, and his basic abilities recharge 50% faster. Kind of a neat trait there. So you always want to stay near your allies. Q, his healing potion, is 20 mana, 3-second cooldown, so very spammable. You throw a healing potion on the ground that heals the first allied hero that comes in contact with it for 230, so a decent-sized heal. The limit is 5 active potions, so you can actually keep these on the ground, and they can stay there indefinitely. There's no expiry on them, but you can only have 5 at a time. His W is called Herodic Cube. It's 40 mana, 14-second cooldown, so fairly long cooldown. You throw out a Herodic Cube in a straight line, it kind of like blows up, dealing 80 damage to all enemies. So not very much damage, but also slows them by 40% for 1 3/4 of a second. It can also be augmented by gems that you can, I guess, put into the Herodic Cube that you can get throughout your talent tree. And we'll maybe talk about that a little bit when we get to the discussion. Scroll of Sealing is a massive talent. It's his E, it's 40 mana, 16-second cooldown, so you got to use it sparingly. You unfurl an enchanted scroll, which makes this huge triangle on the screen. It's really slow cast time, but once it goes off, it's a huge area, and it does 150 damage, not a ton of damage, but some damage, and also does a root for 1.5 seconds. Big area of denial, which is what they're going for here with Deckard Cain. They're going for like zone control-y setup healer. And then his ultimates. Mystic, can you read out that first ultimate for me in your Deckard Cain voice? I want to see what your Stay a While and Listen says.
Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go again. All right. Stay a while and listen.
Heccu, you've got to have a Deckard Cain impersonation here that we got to hear.
Stay a while and listen. I'm more so like a Bond villain, you know, like yes. Mr. Bond, I was expecting you. You're like, oh. Yeah, I'm not that good at that. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to record that and clip it and post it on Twitter or something. So stay a while and listen. 60 mana, 60-second cooldown. After 1 second channel time, you channel for 3 seconds. He pulls out a storybook and reads a story, putting everyone to sleep in a huge arc, probably about like a 160-degree arc in front of him. Puts them all to sleep. The sleep effects end instantly, obviously, if they take damage, and it's for 3-second sleep, then 2 seconds afterwards if they don't get interrupted. So up to a 5-second sleep here in a huge area, potentially setting up some huge plays. Obviously, the downside here is the channel time. The second ultimate, 40 mana, 30-second cooldown, so very spammable, and it's vector targetable. It's called Lornado. He creates a swirling Lornado that travels in a targeted direction, continually knocking away enemies that come into contact with. And you've probably come across this. You know, the boss in the Sky Temple is a small version of it, where he just pushes in a certain area and you just can't get past it. Very spammable. Okay, so now let's start the conversation on Deckard Cain. So, Heccu, I know you're not a support main, but what do you think of this kit here? Is this a healer you'd like to see on your team, and where do you think he's going to be strong? What do you like about the hero? Where anything that stand out for you?
I would say like the Q, it kind of feels like maybe a different heal comparing to Ana. Because like it's basically like the spam heal that you can use, but just this time like nobody can block it. So like you can like throw it, as I understand, through somebody. When it comes to, I like the idea of like stay a while and listen. I can imagine like some horrible things happening. You know, like people are taking the boss. They stay a while and listen. They get all stand in a boss, and then like just like other shenanigans are happening. So that can be cool.
Because there's a huge range in that too. You can probably like sit in a bush.
Yes.
Like on the other side of a wall from the boss, sleep everyone who's on the boss, and then your team can come in, steal the boss, or set up some sort of crazy combo. I see a lot of potential, not necessarily, well, definitely for in like a team fight situation, but specifically if like you're in a bush and you see like them coming across before like even the tank has a chance to check the bush, you can put the whole team to sleep. Might be some interesting kind of plays here with Stay a While and Listen. A few talents too. Like I mentioned that you've got gems you can pick. You can actually pick gems at level 1, level 4, and level 7, and these augment his Herodic Cube. They can increase the slow, drop healing potions, or reduce enemy healing anytime that someone gets hit by the Herodic Cube. So I thought that was kind of interesting. You have like one active at any time, so it gives like kind of a little bit of a piano key bit to him if you choose all the gems. Like, Missy, what do you think about this Herodic Cube idea? Do you think this is useful? I mean, it's got a very long cooldown, 14 seconds. You got to use it sparingly.
I mean, the slow is actually considerable, 40%, and it's for 1.75 seconds. So it's not bad. It's pretty big area too, so, it's pretty good for a slow.
There's a couple other talents I wanted to point out too while we're talking here too. Level 16, I feel like this here, looking at his talent tree, we're not going to go over it this week too much in detail, but I feel like level 13 and beyond, he gets really strong. There's a lot of strong talent choices here. Like level 16, there's safety in numbers. If at least 3 heroes are nearby, Deckard Cain gets 20 armor, and a cooldown reduces 100% faster. So you're going to be spamming those Qs even more, like twice as fast after level 16, basically. Level 20, more Nados, which is, funny pun, haha. This is the upgrade to Lornado. If Lornado hits pushes back any heroes. Every hero it pushes back reduces the cooldown of Lornado by 5 seconds. It's only got a 30-second cooldown to begin with, so you can get complete cooldown resets if done properly. Heck, you're talking about Stay a While and Listen being a kind of a fun ultimate. What about Lornado, especially with this level 20 upgrade, just spamming that all day? Like, this is talk about zone control area denial.
I mean, some people will have like the Katrina flashbacks, like because like like the just tornadoes are keep on going. So it's like it can be like really scary.
It'll be interesting to see which ultimate. I think both ultimates definitely have their place. So it'll be interesting to see which one kind of crops to the top like they usually do as the stronger one. But I mean, you never usually pick a talent at 10, assuming you're going to get to 20 because you might not make it there, right? So you don't want to pick the suboptimal one based on the 20 upgrade. Level 3. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, probably it depends, like, what are you thinking, what is, like, your comp and the enemy team comps? Because, for example, as I understand, the both of the heroics, for example, will be able to cancel mosh pits and stuff like that. So maybe, like, it just depends, like, on which combo do you want to go for. Like, that will just decide.
For sure, and very map dependent too. I imagine someone like a Cursed Hollow, you'd have really great value out of a Lornado that can really like deny those choke points from heroes getting in there. So it'll be interesting to see what people take.
I also heard this interesting point. So someone mentioned that Lornado is actually big enough that you can actually stand in it as compared to like the smaller boss tornadoes. So it can essentially make someone anti-melee. Like no melee can actually hit them because they're standing inside the Lornado.
Oh,
so
that's actually pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't realize it. So you're like your allies you're talking about being in the Lornado, so they're like basically out of range of it. Oh, that's kind of an interesting interaction. Never even thought about that.
It's like super cool. For example, something like a Greyman, because like he needs to go into he needs to jump on your carry in melee, and like if your carry like stays in the Lornado, he's fine, like he's protected, and you just take care of that Greyman.
Yeah.
So that's a nice thing. Yeah, exactly. He's just like,
can't reach him.
So you heard it here first. Deckard Cain is the new dive support. So other things too. Just some things that jumped out at me is we talked about it a little bit, but the W and the E are on very long cooldowns. So you just got I think a good Deckard Cain is going to be one that can manage those cooldowns effectively and use those in those kind of crucial situations. There's some other interesting talent choices as well too, but we're going to get into Deckard Cain in more detail in the coming weeks as he jumps into the PTR and we have some play testing with him as well. So next item on the list is.
Can I just add one final?
You're the guest.
Just one
you
thing.
can say you can do whatever you want. You can say we want to do another 5 minutes, Daz. I'll say Heccu, whatever you want.
No, it's just I don't know if Blizzard accepts skins for ideas for skins, but imagine so you have Deckard Cain like a fisherman skin, so he's in a yellow rain hat, yellow raincoat with a harpoon. So he throws flasks, he throws nets, he tells stories about his catches, but most importantly, he'll have a Sharknado.
The Sharknado meme's already coming out.
Please.
Yeah. The I caught a fish this big stories too, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because I did hear that when he does the Still a While and Listen, he actually tells different stories. Apparently they've got different stories queued up for it too, which will be kind of interesting to see what those are. So I mean, I think that's the perfect idea for a skin. You're talking about throwing bottles. I mean, it could be, I know it's probably not what Blizzard would do because they got rid of Tychus's cigar, for instance, but you'd be throwing empty bottles, right, of whiskey or whatever, right?
Yeah, true. Exactly.
The drunk fisherman, right? But that'd be amazing skin idea. I really hope they take that. That's right up there with Janitor Leoric, which I really want to see one day come into the Nexus as well. Okay, so next, Lore of the Storm. PAX East didn't just bring us the Deckard Cain announcement. It also brought us some announcements about more lore-related content. We found out a little bit more of the history of how the Nexus works. Apparently there are realm lords vying for control of the different realms. We've got the Gravekeeper and the Raven Lord, examples of these lords. There's going to be more of a linear storyline going forward too. They're actually releasing some content about Raven Court, which is the realm that encompasses Cursed Hollow, Haunted Mines, and Towers of Doom. And a lot of the story is going to be out of game in the form of electronic comics, but there's also going to be some in-game story as well. So I think generally a lot of people are saying, yeah, this sounds pretty cool, but I've also seen some negative feedback on this, saying like, why are they splitting their focus doing this when they could be focusing their resources on the game? So Heccu, what are your thoughts on Lore of the Storm? You think it's a cool thing? You think it's pulling too much away from the game, or what do you think?
I mean, I would say usually the people that, for example, do something with the game itself, when it comes to talents, when it comes to adding some stuff like to hero, like there are different people that work. So like when it comes to like the storytelling, you'll have like writers. So you can't really say that like, oh, some like the writers are too busy working on the idea or the lore of the game and not taking care of the nerves. And I don't know, we need to like do something with Fenix. So like, I don't think it really moves away the attention from the important stuff.
I've definitely heard that argument before, and I agree with that. I was trying to put both sides of the story there. The small minority saying that one thing, but I agree. Like, I think that this isn't a case of diverting resources because, like you said, it's not like the storytellers that are writing the content for these storylines or producing the art for these comic books are going to be, you know, like you said, working on the balance of Fenix. They've got the balance team for that. I almost wonder if a lot of this too might be because they're slowing down hero release cycles, that they might have some more resources to divert to interesting things like this that might bring other people into the game because there's a more integrated storyline, so they can use those potential resources that they had, you know, that might have been working on the art for new hero models or whatever, and bring them into this more like lore-based storyline. Mystic, you love StarCraft, and I've watched all of the... I've never played StarCraft 2, but I've watched all the cinematics, and Blizzard tells a great story. You've got to be somewhat excited for this. I know LiQuiD's loving this too, and he would love to talk about this, but being a StarCraft fan, you got to like the idea of getting more of that famous Blizzard storytelling into the Nexus.
Yeah, I've played through, you know, Warcraft 3. I thought that was a great story. It was continued on in WoW, and I like the story too. You know, I played through the raids in like LFR mode just to know the story, right? It's like, okay, yeah, gameplay is there too, but you know, the story is a lot of what interests me. And then StarCraft, like you said, I really like that story, so I'm really excited to see what the writers at Blizzard bring to the table for Heroes of the Storm.
So do you guys think that they had a story kind of in their mind when they came up with this game, or they're just trying to piece together a story based on the parts they currently have? Because it feels like they're like, okay, let's see what we've got. We've got all these realms, the Raven Lords and a few elements. Like, what would make sense as a story to slap onto here? Or do you think they had this vision all along and they just never really publicized and put much effort into it? Like, Heccu, do you have any insight there? What do you think?
I don't have any, like, I have absolutely no insight. I can imagine, for example, when they were brainstorming, they just wrote down a lot of things, like what they can do for the game, and they didn't prioritize this point. And right now, when they they made a lot of stuff in the upper part of the list, like they gave a look at the bottom, like, oh, maybe we'll do this thing. So I think probably something was discussed, like it was never like it's not like a brand new thing, because like Blizzard just really likes lore, so like why not put it anywhere like where it's possible? So probably it's like was on some kind of level there was like thought about that.
And this has got to be a new challenge for them too, because it's an interesting situation. Even like the tutorial makes fun of the game being like, what are we doing here? You know, like we're all like dead heroes all in the Nexus from different like worlds and stuff. It must have been a real challenge to take all of these pieces, put them together and form some sort of cohesive story. So I'm really looking forward to this comic series and getting a bit more into it. We talked about it like during your interview too, that we started at the top of the show. Like it's not only the game, but it's also like the story about the game that can get you more into it too and get you more immersed in it. And one thing that Heroes has been lacking is any sort of lore or explanation about why we're doing this. Like, why am I destroying the enemy's core? Why do I keep coming back to life after I die? You know, on these like death timers, and like, who's this Raven Lord guy who keeps announcing in the background? Like that, nothing has ever really been explained well, and I guess this gives us a good opportunity for it.
I think
that yeah, sorry.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I think if we look back a little bit, they did release a video where they're talking about how they made the music for, you know, some of these battlegrounds, and they were talking about like kind of like the history of what they thought was going on with the battleground, and so they incorporated that into the music, right? I think that's part of like what the lore discussion thing was going on, and they're like, hey, we can actually expand on this. So
yeah, have you been talking to Rosai? Because when he came on the show, he was talking about the composition pieces and how they told the story, right? And this seems to be, like you said, like a really obvious extension of that as well. Okay, did you want to say something about this, Heccu, before we moved on? Like, you got to interrupt Mystic. If Mystic starts talking, you got something to say, you just got to interrupt.
No.
Job's done.
I just wanted to say that when it comes to lore, for example, like World of Warcraft is really known for its lore, and I know like so many people that, for example, used to play hardcore but now stopped, but still every time they buy the new expansion just because they want to know what is happening in the game, they will not go for the mythic raids, but they'll go like for looking for it and stuff like that, just because they want to see the story, they want to know what is happening.
And that's that's one of the big draws for me to eventually get into WoW, because I want to learn more about the storyline. There's only so much you can get from certain. I know I've read all the books, but I haven't. But the problem is the books leave gaps, which are the actual like gameplay bits, right? So I'll be reading a book, and like at the very end of it, I can't remember which book it was, but that's when Deathwing basically got released and started Cataclysm, and then I get to the next book, and it's all done and resolved, and Deathwing's dead or whatever happened to him at the end of Cataclysm. And I was like, oh great, so I just missed that whole important like world-changing event. So like I feel like I was missing a lot, and I've always wanted to get into WoW and like play through so I can experience part of that storyline. Okay, so we're going to move along to the developer update that came out just a few hours before the show, actually. We're breaking into 3 parts, starting with MMR and Matchmaking. So turns out there was a lot of pitchforks raised by the community, but in particular Reddit, about Hero League, and and a lot of people saying the game's broken, like matchmaking is just horrible, Hero League's a horrible place to be, we should all uninstall the game, right? Like they were coming out in full force. Blizzard saw this and was like, okay, we apologize, we haven't been as transparent as we should be. We're going to do an AMA. They're doing that tomorrow. They're doing it at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We've got the link in the show notes on Reddit. But they also did explanations about what's to come with regards to matchmaking, rank system, and just how to deal with toxicity in the game, because that's also an issue too. So starting with MMR and matchmaking, what they said is, okay, for queue times and versus match quality was the first thing they talked about. One of the problems they identified is, okay, as queues get longer, Blizzard will loosen matchmaking rules to make it so that they'll find a match for you, because they don't want you waiting in queue forever. But because they loosen those rules over time while you're waiting in queue, it can lead to poor match quality because they're pushing shorter queue times over match quality. Blizzard says, okay, we're gonna scale that back a little bit and make sure that the games are more important than the queue times. The other thing they addressed as well is MMR and rank decay. So they're looking to implement MMR and rank decay if you don't play games for a while. This is something that people have been clamoring for a long time. Heck, I'm interested to see what you're going to say about this too, because I know you play a lot of Hero League. They did emphasize though that this isn't going to be overly punishing. So it's not like if you're in Diamond you don't play for a few months, you're going to be like Bronze 5 all of a sudden. But still, like they haven't really explained exactly the what's going to go on here particularly. But this is something they're going to be bringing in soon. And they also address performance-based MMR, because we haven't heard a lot about it since they pulled it when there was that whole issue with the seeding system that happened the season after BlizzCon ended. So it's go ahead. Yeah,
I would say, for example, when it comes to the queues, personally, I would prefer to wait in a queue for a little, maybe not even for a little bit longer, but for a longer time, and to have like a proper game, than to have a situation when you kind of waited a lot and you still end up having a bad game. So it's like, okay, I might as well just wait extra 3 minutes or even like 5 minutes, depending like how it works, than to wait and have like a bad experience. So I see like that as an improvement. When it comes to decreasing of MMR and leagues, I also think that's really good, because I remember situations, because right now, for example, you can check with the people that you're playing with. You right click, you check with their statistics, what they usually play, and that's what I usually check, just in case, to know like what roles do those people prefer and what heroes they can play. And then like you go into their match history, and like the person played the last time 3 months ago. I know myself, if I don't play a game for 3 months, I'm just like, my figures feels like if they're like wooden, like it's like impossible. Of course, if it's a Smurf, the person will not have any problems. But there were often situations when I would see a person like this, like, okay, he didn't play for 3 months, and then he's not performing, I don't know, like on a diamond or a master level, just because he didn't have that practice. He might be like mentally, like he knows what to do, but his fingers are not listening to him because he didn't have the practice. So I think like the decreasing is pretty nice.
So
for those such situations.
How much of a penalty do you think they should do for that? Because the one problem that I think a lot of people would argue is that if you have someone in a high league and you punish them too far, you're putting them in a league that they shouldn't be in, even though they haven't been playing the game for 3 months. Like if you take someone from Diamond, I know it's a bit of an extreme example, and you put them in a Silver League, their game knowledge, even if they're a little rusty, they're going to be just dominating and making those games skewed. So like how much decay is too much, or like how much is the right amount? Like do you think someone should go from like a Diamond 1 to Diamond 4 or something if they haven't played for a few months? Like where's the balance here? Because I see this being a very difficult problem to solve. Not that it isn't a solvable one, but I see it being difficult to come up with a good solution that makes everybody happy in the game a better place.
I would say, for example, when it comes to decaying the level of MMR and leagues, I think that the system, like, it needs to decay, but it still needs to remember what was the level when it started decaying. So, for example, let's imagine a situation like you were diamond and you drop, like, you were high diamond and you drop to low plat, and you start dominating people. So yes, of course, there will be a situation when there will be people who are not happy because they're playing against a better player. And then if the system remembers, like, okay, you were this high, we'll be giving you more points for winning games, so you reach again that level faster, and less people suffer from you dominating them. So like it will keep like the system like remember it. But if he keeps on struggling on that level, maybe like that other level also like will lower down. Like, okay, you used to play on this level. Okay, we don't think that you're probably playing on this level. So like they go a little bit lower. So like maybe like have like a double MMR, you know, like your current MMR and like, I don't know, your previous season MMR and stuff like that.
I like that idea a lot. Because even if it had like a cap on how far down you could go, like let's say like if you were Diamond 1 and you hadn't played forever, there's only so far down you could go. Maybe it's like, you know, you can only go down to Diamond 5, say, right? And even if you haven't played the game for, you know, like 6 months, it wouldn't push you down past that point to get you down to like, you know, platinum, gold, wherever, like below, because it remembers, okay, like they used to be up there, so there's only a certain amount of elasticity that you'd have from the decay. I think that'd be a really smart way to implement it. I don't know how other games do it, but that seems like a great piece of advice to me, that remembering where they started, not just assuming that they're always that new spot.
So I wanted to say something about this because League has a MMR system, a matchmaking system with decay. So as far as I remember from their system, they kind of had that sort of idea where it's like, okay, so no matter how high you are, as long as you were above Platinum 5, right, you would decay. So it would only decay you as low as Platinum 5, and then, but it would the game would remember your MMR because your MMR is different than your rank. And then so if, let's just say your MMR is really high, but you decayed to Plat 5, and then you started like, it would still match you against like some of the higher level players. But if you started losing, right, it would like kind of slingshot you down more than because it wants to bring you down to the Platinum 5 rank. Whereas if you had a Plat 5 MMR or Plat 5 rank and you still had that high MMR, but then you're still playing at that high level, it would slingshot your rank back to that higher MMR to get you back to where you were.
Job's done.
I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of games that have decay, so I'm sure Blizzard's going to examine them all and come up with their own system that makes most sense for Heroes of the Storm. So trusting Blizzard, hopefully, fingers crossed, that they'll come up with a good solution to overcome any of these problems we've aforementioned. Next on the list is fixing ranked. So they're doing a few things. They're going to change how placement matches work. You can have as little as one placement match for a season if you have been playing a lot the previous season. New and returning player seeding is going to change a bit. New players cannot be seeded higher than Plat 5. That was previously Diamond 3. These, by the way, all these changes, they haven't implemented them yet. They're all down the road. And returning players will not be reseeded from MMR from other game modes, which is a trick I used for one season too that worked to my benefit. So you can't use the good old Daz trick of skipping a season and reseeding based on your unranked MMR. Hero bans and swaps. Oh my gosh, they're actually talking about putting in a third ban. There's been a lot of clamoring about this. They're talking about putting it in the mid-ban phase. And hero swaps, they said, are a little bit of a lower priority, but it's something they're looking at. And the one thing they did mention is that there's several issues that come up with player swaps, because if you're not in like a team league situation or a custom game, like you don't know the other people, so there can be internal conflict about who gets to play whom, you know, switch with me or whatever, and also increases the draft time. So they want to try and think about that a little bit more before implementing it. It's nice they're being upfront about that and saying that they're not coming right away. And then finally, new hero balance. People were talking about you should ban like a Fenix or something the first couple weeks it comes out. They said, you know what, like they don't mean to make heroes OP. Sometimes it happens, but the Hero League data is very important for balancing. So even though he is OP, you can always ban him if you need to, but it still gives them important data for balancing. So Heccu, being the resident Hero League player, what do you think about these ideas for fixing rank? Do you think it's going to do what's intended here?
Also, when it comes like to hero bans, the situation, for example, is that usually you have 2 OP heroes that are always banned. You know, like you have, I don't know, like a Fenix and Maiev. You just like don't see those heroes being played because like one team bans one thing, that team bans the other thing. And it's like really unusual to see something else. Adding a not, but there was like a moment when there were like more heroes. But for example, like 3 OP heroes. Like you ban one, you ban the other one, and one is being left. So the team that is like first picking will most likely take it. So I would say that we needed a third ban, but maybe adding it a little bit earlier during the first phase and not during the second phase of the bans, because like by that time you don't really have a lot of things to ban. Like you can't like ban the OP stuff. You can ban something that you that you can see that was really good in that comp. Because you know, like if you see, I don't know, like an Ariel and something else, you'll be like, maybe they're going for a Cho'Gall. So like you ban a Cho'Gall at that point. But in the beginning, you want to just try to seed away like the OP heroes that are like, I just don't want to play. You know, like when Tracer was like horrible, like I just don't want to play, I don't know, versus Maiev and Tracer. And that will allow you to maybe like to even like maybe I have like more heroes, see like diversity in the game.
This seems to make those easily counterable heroes maybe a bit more viable, because if you pick something like a Tracer in the first half of the phase, you can ban out like a Brightwing and a Varian in the mid ban too, right? You have that option to ban out more counters to heroes that you've picked. So I guess maybe that's the reason they're going for the mid ban, is because they want that more like those more options to you know respond to the picks that were done in the first half of the ban or of the picks phase. But I thought it was interesting as well. Like I would have assumed that they'd be upfront the bans, because like if you look at something like League, which I know Mystic's very familiar with, I think most if not all the bans are up front, right, Mystic?
Yeah, all the bans are up front. It's both sides ban 5 heroes, and you know those are all the bans up front.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. But you know, the more we talk about it, the more I think I like it being a mid-ban situation, because maybe what would happen too is if you had 4 bans off the top instead of the 2 bans that we currently have, you'd have like just 4 OP heroes taken off the board, then no one would ever play those. I feel like you said, there's not very much diversity in those first 2 bans. It's always like, you know, Maiev and Fenix or whatever it happens to be in the meta currently. So extending that might just make it so there's less players you'd take on the board too. I don't know. I guess we'd have to find out if we had that situation, but this is the way that it looks like they're going to be putting it down the road as well. What do you think about like banning heroes when they come out too? Because that was the topic a lot of people are asking for. I don't know if I'm very for that, like taking heroes out of the game in certain modes. But Heccu, what do you think about that?
I don't think they need to be. I don't feel they need to be like automatically banned, because they're just like basically banned with the bans. That's why maybe an addition of an extra ban, not in the middle but in the beginning, it actually gives you some kind of diversity, because like, you know, like one ban will always just be that new hero because like it's OP or some kind of like other reason. So I don't think it needs a global ban, but the more bans in the beginning can like help to fight against that. At least in Unranked and Hero League and Team League.
I feel like the people complaining here don't remember the days when we didn't have bans, because I remember that it was always like, hey,
wait,
first
I
pick kill.
remember.
Yeah.
Oh, again, the memories of Kel'Thuz. No,
I know.
like the team that will be like first pick is like, okay, they got Kel'Thuz. Okay, I'm done. Like I can't even do like.
Dodge.
You don't even try. Yeah, exactly.
I hated that too, because I felt like I had to know Kael'thas, or I can't remember who else was OP at the time. Or I remember there was like the Johanna Leoric meta too around then, like where like you had to know those heroes, because if you're first pick and you didn't pick those, it was such a detriment to your team. You had to know the OP heroes. Whereas now, like, you don't need to know Fenix is likely going to get banned, right? And then you don't feel as bad that you're taking, like, if you don't play that third most OP hero that usually does sneak through, right? Because it's not as overpowering and impressive as old school Kael'thas. It gives us all nightmares still. Obviously, it scarred Heccu for life.
Yeah, yes, it did. Because like back then I didn't play like when I started playing, and then like Kel'Thuz appeared, I was still playing supports because that's how I got introduced to the game, like just to learn what to do. And with support it was not so hard. Then I understood that okay, in the support there's not so many things you can do, because like some people are going there, some people are going there, everyone is yelling that they need healing, and you end up like losing because you just cannot provide everything that you need. That's it. Now I changed like to tanks, because I understand when I need to jump in, when I need to jump out, and I feel more safe and like less responsible. But back then, like, you know, all of your team is like running around with chain bombs, and you just see them like just spreading it, and you're like, I'm not going there. Like, I'm not helping you guys.
You're on your own.
Because like, yeah, exactly. Because you're just like, okay, you're dead. Like, sorry.
Yeah, just quitting on them as soon as you see the Kael'thas bombs come out. Sorry, guys. It's up to you here.
Yeah.
The next two topics, I think we're going to combine them because they're actually kind of similar. And like I said, we're going crazy over time just because we love talking to Heccu so much. So the next one is Toxic Cleanup Aisle 3. This was the final part of the developer update. They talked about toxicity and reporting and how they're going to be amping that up a little bit. And then the topic after that we're going to meld into this is Look Who's Talking, which is talking about voice comms in general. I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. So we'll talk about both these together for 5 minutes. But what they talked about in the developer update for toxicity and reporting is they're going to ramp up actions on reports. They're going to use machine learning to get smarter about confirming like valid reports as opposed to people who spam them. And they're also going to increase penalties for repeat offenders. They're going to look to make adjustments if you have like a lever in your Hero League game and you lose, which people have been clamoring for ages, as well as AFK and intentionally dying. If you have those in your game too, it might adjust your rank adjustment if you lose that game. So they're going to also give feedback too when your reports have been heard and they take action. And they said they've been emailing people about those, but they're going to start doing in-game like little alerts that, hey, you know, this person that you reported, they got silenced or whatever. One thing that I noticed they didn't talk about here, though, is voice chat toxicity and how if someone's silenced in-game, they're not silenced in voice communications. And I came across an awfully salty guy. I saw him, he was chatting away in voice chat, ripping into the whole team, and I noticed that he had a little silencer ban, but that doesn't silence you in voice comms too. So I would like them to say that, you know, they're going to start respecting silences across all forms of communication, but I'm sure that's something that they're definitely thinking about. So, Heccu, what do you find there's a lot of toxicity? Do you think is this a problem that needs addressing, or is this just a loud minority that are kind of complaining about this?
No, I think it needs cleanup. I feel that like Blizzard tries to make everyone happy, because like they feel like if they'll actually give like a real ban to somebody, like a player that is like toxic, they will not play the game anymore. So I guess like they were maybe a bit worried of losing like some players that way. But probably right now they looked up and then said like, okay, maybe we're losing more players, because like there are so many, like there are toxic players. Like, you know, me as a player who is not toxic, maybe I don't want to play the game because there are so many toxic people. So it's like it's better just to get rid of those, you know, like rotten players. Like it's maybe like a bad word, but like I mean, some of them are just like incredibly horrible. And then like make a lot of.
I think a lot of people would use a lot stronger words than just rotten, so I think you're okay with that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's like, and you'll actually make more people happy and let them play, let them enjoy the game that they like. Then, you know, like, especially, I would say, especially it's like for the new players. If you're new to MOBAs and you don't know what to do and you just start the game and you get flamed, you're like, okay, I'm not touching this anymore. Then it might be like just like one player that like just keeps on insulting everyone and just ruining the experience to like for everyone.
And it sucks too. I mean, the really bad toxic players, I feel like they are such a small minority. We do have a great community, but they really do stand out and they do sour that experience. Like one of the reasons that I don't play Hero League nearly as much as I used to when I first started playing the game is just because I was like, you know what? Like I'm not coming here at the end of the day to play some games just to hear people rip into each other. You just sit on the sidelines when it happens. I try not to like feed the trolls, but it just feels horrible even if you're not the target of the toxicity. And like that's the last thing you want to do, spend 30 minutes listening to someone just rip into somebody else and just get salty all over the place. So I like your idea, and I'm glad that, you know, if what you're saying is right, Blizzard's identified it as, you know, get rid of those bad apples so that the good apples can shine. So that kind of moves into talking about voice comms too. I've seen like voice comms kind of dip in popularity over the past, you know, couple months that they've been around. There was a really great positive experience. It first seemed like everyone was using voice comms. Now when I play games in QM, I almost never see anybody in voice comms. Unranked, you get the odd person here or there. Hero League, when I delve into it, usually there's like 3 or 4 people. I find it's rare that I get the whole team in voice comms. But like, you've been playing a lot of Hero League. What have you seen as the trend, especially over in EU too, where you play? Like, have you been seeing the same thing we've been seeing over here in NA?
So say when it comes to the beginning, at that beginning, a lot of people were using it. Then almost right away, there were situations when, for example, really good players like in Master and Grandmaster would still use the voice comms, but already like people in Diamond would just not join the voices because I don't know, for some reason. Like I always go there because like I feel it gives you so much more, but I don't know, people don't like it. Like probably like one of the reasons is like what is a problem for Europe is the language barrier, because like if you're in NA, like everyone is like speaking English. When it comes to Europe, okay, you have people from UK, they have no problems with English. When it comes to Germans, French people, Spanish people, then there's also Russians. For everyone to actually speak on a decent level, they can actually communicate. That's more complicated. So maybe like that's one of the reasons why people just don't feel the need to even like try to use the comps.
Yeah, and I feel like a bad experience or two can sour people pretty easily on it. Not that I've seen a lot of bad experiences, other than that one I kind of mentioned before. Like generally, everyone's kind of positive, and I feel like those games where everyone is in voice, you tend to be more supportive and less salty in those games. At least everyone that I've been talking to has seemed like that too. But I played in a game a couple weeks ago where I was in voice comms and everyone was speaking Japanese except for me. I think they were a 4-stack. It was hella confusing. I don't speak a word of Japanese. My ping was horrible too because they forced me on a server, which was I think the like Western Seaboard, so it was a little bit slower. But still, I can see where the language barrier would become a concern off the bat. Like I guess you got to establish who's speaking what language to begin with.
Yeah. But at least I will say like this. There were a lot of people, including pro players, that were asking for this option. They got it, so they're pretty happy. And I don't see anything that it didn't bring anything bad. And at least, like for example, if you're going for fun games with your friends, now you don't need to even like to use Discord or Skype or TeamSpeak or whatever like you're using. You can just do it in the game. So that's pretty like at least for fun games with your friends, it's way more convenient.
It is. I just wish it'd keep. The one thing I'm used to using Discord all the time. Whenever we use in-game chat and I leave the game, I'm still used to being able to talk to people because I'm still in Discord. But it just abruptly ends the conversation. Or if you don't have auto join team voice on or whatever it's called, when you get out of the game, you got to rejoin it as well. So there are like some inconveniences like that. But generally, yeah, I think it's been a great thing for the game. Okay, second last topic. Fenix's tune down. So Cancerous Fenix has been nerfed. We were expecting this last week, but like the developers said, they wanted to take a couple weeks of getting data to figure out what they're going to do to a new hero, and 2 weeks has passed, so Fenix has got his nerf. So they wanted to balance his talents. Since pre-16, there were some heavily favored talents. They also wanted to tone down his damage. So what did they do to him? They reduced his basic attack damage by 10%. That's a huge nerf. 7% damage nerf to Plasma Cutter is Q. 3% damage buff to Planet Cracker. So level 1 advanced targeting is stacking Q talent that everyone was taking. The stacking quest damage bonus has been reduced from 0.75 to 0.5 per stack, and the max bonus damage has been reduced from 75 to 60. Level 1 Arsenal Synergy got a buff. So the off talents seem to have gotten a lot of buffs here too to compensate for these nerfs he's gotten. But this is the talent that gave bonus damage, increased splash damage on the next phase bomb after hitting 3 heroes with repeater cannon. A very kind of clunky playstyle talent, but they increased the bonus damage that you get on the phase bomb and from 100 to 175%. Level 4 Emergency Protocol. It gives movement speed bonus when for 5 seconds when your shield gets depleted, that everyone was taking. The bonus has been reduced from 30% to 25% move speed. Level 7 Combat Advantage. It gives Q bonus damage to slow targets. It's had the damage bonus nerfed from 50 to 40%. Level 13 Auxiliary Shields. This had an 80% pick rate, so quite a heavily picked talent. That gave shields based on auto attack damage dealt. Now gives less shields. It used to give 20%, now only gives 15%. Level 13 Dampening Field gives spell armor when shields are active, has had the spell armor increased from 15 to 20. And level 13 Rapid Recharge, it gives shields when healed, will now give more shields. It used to be 20% of the heal, but now it's 40% of the heal received. And then a couple level 20s got changed to Singularity Charge that gives Repeater Cannon increased attack speed and Pulse Bomb increased range. Has had attack speed and Repeater Cannon increased. Repeater Cannon bonus attack speed has been increased from 50 to 100%. And then level 20 Unconquered Spirit, which granted a shield instantly upon the moment of death, has had its shield increased from 600 to 800, which I'm sure Heccu likes because it's a very Johanna style level 20 talent. So go ahead, Heccu.
But it's like when it comes to Fenix, like, you know, like, it's like when he has changes, for me, it's so hard to understand what is wrong with him because I didn't see him in games. He's just being banned because like, I usually don't play quick matches. So I go in ranks or Hero League, so I don't see him. So I just like, I know for the fact because when we didn't ban him, he would be the one who would deal a lot of damage and not really die. So it's like, he deals a lot of damage. You're like, okay, like we're getting that guy. Like you jump into him and he's like, bye bye. Like, and he's like somewhere else and again, like shooting you. And then like, there's like the enemy team and everything goes bad. So people just learn that it's easier to ban to get rid of him. So I don't know, like for me, it's really, really, really hard to say anything about the changes. Well, I don't see him.
I've been in the Purveyor, and I know a lot of people we've been playing, especially in like after show games with. We've been like, let's let Fenix do this ban and see what happens because we want to have some experience playing against him, and it always goes horribly. The problem that we've identified with Fenix is he does everything way too well. I tried solo laning against him in our Bush League game that I talked about that we lost horribly last week. I was Sonya laning against a Fenix. There's nothing you can do except just safely soak. You can't even have any hope of trying to dominate a lane because all he does is shoot from a distance, clear the waves. If you get any damage on him, he's gonna get that back because you're just damaging his shields. Even if you take a little bit of damage off of him, like his actual health, a glow will probably bring that back up or two, and like he can just safely keep coming back. And you can't even outrange the guy because his range is so long on his phase bomb. Not to mention he's got like a solid escape. There's everything in this kit, maybe except for taking camps, that he could do, and it just made him so difficult to deal with. But seeing all these damage nerfs across the board, Mystic, like these are pretty heavy nerfs. I mean, his win rate was absurdly high, so I guess maybe this is warranted. Do you think that we're going to see a dip in him? I imagine like you always see like there's that lag between nerfs and bans, so I'm sure he's still going to get banned in Hero League while people are still trying to figure out if he's still OP. But what are your first impressions of this then? Like, do you think he's still going to be that OP hero, or does this bring him somewhat back to earth?
All right, yeah, these are some heavy-handed nerfs, and I think they're pretty good, but I don't know if they're enough, actually. Because, like, so we first look at basic attack damage reduced by 10%, right? And so that's really big, because it affects a lot of his damage. And then 7% damage nerf to Plasma Cutter, that's also pretty big, because his Plasma Cutter also did a lot of damage where he couldn't auto-attack, right? Some of the talents they nerfed like all the talents that he usually took. So like advanced targeting, you know, they nerfed that. Mobile offense hasn't been touched, so it's still pretty good. It's kind of nerfed in a way where, because basic auto attack damage is nerfed, it also got nerfed. Emergency protocol, the 5% off of that is something. Auxiliary shields, yeah, they nerfed some of that, but like, so the thing is, he's still really tanky.
They didn't change his kit really too, right? And my question is that the problem? Like, do they need to change some of the way that he fundamentally works? I know it's not something that Blizzard likes to do too often. They do it rarely. In case like Garrosh, for instance, they took away the pull on his slam just because that was so problematic and not fun to play against at all. But Fenix he's not fun to play against. He's great to play, but maybe his kit needs a change here.
Here's what I think they need to do, right? Blizzard needs to either take him in one direction or the other. They either need to say he's a tanky ranged damage dealer, and thus he can keep all of his stats or whatever, like for his tankiness, but they need to bring down his damage a lot, which, you know, I could see them going in that direction with these kind of changes, right? So, but, you know, these are kind of aimed at everything. They could say, hey, he's kind of like a more durable damage dealer, in which case, you know, his damage numbers can be fine, you know, except they need to way bring down his shields and like way bring down his health, right? So that, in which case, you know, he's kind of durable. He's a little bit more durable than, let's just say, you're like Vala or Genji or something, or well, probably more durable than that. But like, he can output this high damage because he's just a tiny bit more durable than the average person. But then, even then, like power creep, if he's dealing that much damage, why isn't everybody else doing that much damage with just as much armor, right? So I think they need to take him in one direction or the other, or at least change his shields, at least where I was mentioning this off camera, where they can change his shields, where just put a lot of the shields, change that into health, and in which case he'd have less regenerable shields but more health. Give it a little bit more counterplay.
It's hard to burn through those shields, especially when you're laying against him as a Sonya.
Go
ahead, Heccu.
I was just, I'm still like not sure what is like the best counter for Fenix, because like a lot of people will say like, okay, the best counter is some kind of a dot. So you have like Lunara or I don't know, like Gul'dan that can put the dot. The problem is to actually put on him, because I remember in one game trying to do something versus Fenix when he didn't get banned. As a Lunara, I would try to get to Fenix, but so first of all, it puts me in a bad position, because as a Lunara, I don't want to be really in front because Fenix is in their back lane to just like, you know, give that like one auto attack to put a dot. And by the time like I put one dot on his shield, so it's not regen, I'm 1/3 HP from his damage. So it's like, I'm not sure what exactly what is the best counter right now for Fenix.
Yeah, because that range is like 6.5 range or whatever it is on his phase bomb. Like, you can't get within range easily to that hero to try and counter him. But Mystic, you've got an idea for a counter here?
There's one hard counter, and that's Variant, and that's only when you hit 13 Shield Breaker. Shield Breaker, yeah. 100%, it depletes all of the shield, and then you taunt him, and most likely he's dead. But that is the one hard counter that he has. Everything else, like, it's okay, but it's not like super hard counter.
I know a lot of people try to play Tracer against him as well, but I don't see how that really helps too much as a counter. But go ahead, Heccu.
I can imagine like, you know, like a picture, like, does the enemy team have Fenix? Like, yes and no. Like, do you have Varian? Like, yes and no. Like, and when it does like the enemy team has Fenix and you don't have Varian, like, GG. And like something like that, because that's how I guess like it feels right now.
That tree, there'd be a lot of branches, but most of them would end in GG. Is the problem?
You didn't ban it, GG.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the last one. Heccu, thank you so much for. I mean, this is probably one of our longest shows ever. Go figure, because you're 6 hours behind us or ahead of us in schedule, so this is really late for you. So we purposely saved the last topic to talk about one of your favorite heroes, Johanna. So we're not going to delay. We're going to jump right into it before we end off the show. Tell me why Johanna is your favorite hero and why people should be playing much more of this hero.
So for me, it used to be Jaina. She used to be like my favorite hero because of the lore, because like she was really good. And then they made changes for her. They took away her blink and they moved the ice block on level 20. Like not so long ago, they changed it, and now the ice block is a passive that it's like a talent that you can get it automatically if you stack the damage, and you actually have like the blink back on level 20. But that period, I was like, okay, I'm not playing any Jaina because it just somebody jumps into you and you're dead. Like you have no saves. Johanna is the first tank that I ever started playing, and that's the role that I main right now. And I really enjoy playing her in Hero League because it's like, okay, she's not a hero that can make like insane plays, like like with the Diablo. Like if you look at Breeze, like he can play it as a Genji, like you jump in, you bum, and like and the hero is dead and you run away. When it comes to Johanna, she can't initiate so hard, but she can tank a lot. If you make some kind of mistake, you always have the iron skin. She blinds, she stuns, she does a lot of stuff. For me, it's like, I know I usually go for the build when I get as much reduction for my W and for my abilities, and then just like the thing that I do just during the fights, like stack all of their teammates, all of the enemies, so my teammates need to bother less, and like and not get, I don't know, killed and stuff like that, and it's easier for them to deal damage, and while you're just like doing this stacking, you can survive because you're just Johanna. So that's like the reason why I really like her.
I liked her a lot for most of those reasons you're saying too. When I first started playing this game, I think Johanna was one of the first kind of heroes that came out. I started playing just after beta, but she was the tank that I first took into Hero League as well and started climbing with too. And for most of the reasons he explained, like she was very tanky at the time. She had amazing wave clear. She had the D button, the get out of trouble D that you just hit if you got in any kind of
panic
issues, like problematic situation, right? Hit that D button and you're out. Like unstoppable is an amazing thing to have. The one thing that everyone always hacks on Johanna for is the fact that her engage is horrible, and you kind of mentioned it too. But do you find, like, if you take the Johanna in games, that people are a little bit worried that you don't have that power slide, you don't have that devastating charge, you don't have something to go like do that strong initiate, except maybe outside of your ultimates?
No, I don't find, because for example, when you're like in a pro team or like you're playing with your friends, like basically when you have like voice in your coordinate, you can tell your teammates that you're going in. Like if you're on Diablo, like you jump in into 5, you do the combos, and your team helps you. If you do something like that in Hero League or in some kind of unranked, you can be in a situation when you jump in because you can see a good possibility, but your team doesn't react fast enough, so you just end up dying in 5 men. With Johanna, it's so obvious, like I am running in, like, and your team is like, okay, we're following you up. So it's like, okay, it's like also for the enemy team, it's like easier for them maybe like to disengage, but for your team, it's like a big red sign, like, okay, we are fighting right now, because like there's not like an insanely fast movement. You know?
How many times have you seen an ETC slide in, do an amazing mosh, but he's so far away from the rest of his team, there's no like reasonable follow up.
And pings,
right? But
pings like,
guys, like, that was an amazing mosh. Where is everybody? Like we're all like ages away because he slid in, and there's nothing we could do to catch up in time,
or something like that.
Yeah, or whatever, right? So like you said, that's the nice thing about the Johanna. You can move together as the team, and I guess especially if you're not like super high pro level play, like generally like the team fights are gonna happen, right? So like once you're in that team fight, I feel like that's where Johanna really excels. Like you said, with the pulls and the blinds, the slows, like she just controls that area so well.
I would say also she's also like a tank with one of the best wave clears, because I don't know, I would say like this, I already got to solo lane as Johanna like twice, for example, versus Troll. I don't know if those were like the not so good Trolls, or if it's actually Johanna for some reason like counters Troll on the solo lane when it's like an actual solo lane Troll and not like in the 4-man rotation. But I had like absolutely no problem. Like I have my heal on level 1 that I just like heal time to time. activate, I can blind him so he doesn't care. If a root is a real problem, I have Iron Skin to run away. And like
Job's
my
done.
W just like cleans up everything really good. And then when it comes to team fights, I don't know, if I'm like the only one who can cancel a mosh pit, I have a bless shield and I have a W. And sometimes like you can see a ETC like jumping into you, and your whole team is stacked. You can either use your D and your W, or even just use the W. There'll be a microsecond when everyone will be stunned, but you'll still cancel it. So it's like that's or like with Maiev, right? She's a really good counter to Maiev, and she has a really good synergy with Maiev. You stack everyone in the middle, then there's the Warden's Cage, and then the pinball machine happens, all the stuff. It's like so good. So I think she's like pretty good. I would just say like this. Yeah.
Final follow-up question for the day. Do you ever take Falling Sword?
I don't think I ever... It's like my Johanna is level 56, and I think I never played with Falling Sword.
Thank you.
It's like only Bless Shield.
People say, oh, you should try Falling Sword. I'm like, Bless Shield's just so good. I have a problem ever trying to, justify jumping out of like the fight and crashing down. I mean, it's got some engage, I guess, but still I feel like leaving the battlefield as a tank is not what you should really be doing, and that Blessed Shield just is so great of an engage and a disengage too if you get into trouble.
Yeah, it's like you also can use it like to initiate, but it's kind of like it's a super obvious initiation, like, hey guys, I am landing here, like for the enemy team. So it's not like something all of a sudden.
Yeah,
a surprise.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. You've reaffirmed my hatred for that Falling Sword ultimate, so I'm glad that you said that as well. Okay. Good. Guess what? We made it to the end. We're 2 hours in, and we made it to the end. This might be our longest show ever. Thank you, Heccu, so much for coming on. I know the time zone difference has got to be brutal on you. Hopefully, we didn't make you lose too much sleep tonight. So I'm just going to round off the show here. But before we do that, Heccu, where can people find you if they're looking for you on the internet? Where can they follow you? Where can they find all this content we've been talking about that you create?
So they can find me on Twitter. It's at Hansi Heccu. Again, you know the story, how it happened, why the nickname is like that and not Heccu. Luckily, on Twitch, Heccu was not taken. So on Twitch TV, I am just Heccu. And of course, there are also YouTube videos with interviews or videos from the press conferences. And that'll be, again, at Hansi Heccu.
Definitely check those out. They're very entertaining. Mystic, where can people find you if they're looking for you on the internet?
You can find me at Mystic Shroud on Twitter.
And you can find me at DazHots on Twitter. So thanks, everyone, for listening to the Nexus Trolls, a Heroes of the Storm podcast, which we stream live on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TrollsGG, every week on Thursdays now at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to thank Super Dave for being our chieftain. Chieftain Super Dave for pledging his support on Patreon. You too can be a chieftain if you pledge above a certain threshold on Patreon. For more information about that, head over to patreon.com/trollsgg. So thank you for the gallery, all that stuff. Here, I'm messing this up because LiQuiud's not here. I had to go through his stuff. If you want to follow LiQuiud, you can follow him on Twitter at LiQiuDGG on Twitter. You can also subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also visit our website, trolls.gg/the Nexus Trolls, to watch this and past shows along with past video streams, which can also be found on our YouTube channel. For now, it's some of the show and general Heroes of the Storm news. You can follow us on Twitter at the Nexus Trolls or our network at @TrollsGG. If you want to hang out with us in the Trolls community in game, you can /join TrollsGG in game or join our Discord channel. The information for that is at trolls.gg/Discord. Finally, if you need to get in touch with us, the best way is by email at thenexustrolls@trollsgg. Heccu, thanks again for coming on. Mystic.
Thank you for the mind.
Mystic, thanks again for hosting with me. Everybody, thanks for listening and have a great week. 'Cause I'm TNT, I'm dynamite.